and we will be opening it via Nearpod. So give me a moment to get that code up for you. Okay, one moment. We are okay. Just bear with us. We're borrowing space because the entire Division of Academics was presenting, so we had to find a space on the campus where we can present from. Let me choose both.
Come on, do it by yourself. Okay.
All right. The Nearpod code is shown. Thank you, thank you for your patience with us today. And I'll be
Has everybody been able to get into the Nearpod?
Okay, no. Hold on. Oh, God. Hold on.
And we got to ask for the link in the chart. So Miss Bangale is going to put the link in for the Google Doc. So if in case you get kicked out of Nearpod, we've been having some issues with that due to the fact that there's so many people on this particular Nearpod, and there's probably 1,000 people on the EBR internet right now with all the PDs going on. If you do get kicked out the Nearpod, it's no big deal. You can just follow along with the Google Doc. So today's PD is on integrating anchor charts into science instruction. And it's one of the 4 cornerstones, 5 cornerstones actually, we started talking about of science instruction this year. So is the bit.ly, is our bit.ly link working here? Is the bit.ly link for the presentation working? You're going to put it in the Google Doc? Yeah. Okay, she's going to have the Google Doc put into the chat box here shortly. So here's our 3-year EBR science focus. It's academic vocabulary, and like I said, it's anchor charts, learning progressions, unit assessments, and analyzing data. So the biggest thing about anchor charts is we want to use them with fidelity, and we want to make sure that they're student created. A lot of us as teachers have a tendency to make a really nice anchor chart and leave it up all year long. But that's not really what anchor charts are about. The students are supposed to create them, which helps them create ownership in their own learning. And the anchor chart should change with each lesson. So once you finish Unit 1, those anchor charts should come down to make room for Unit 2 anchor charts. And I apologize, the internet is taking forever to load the slides. So I think we're kind of getting there now. So we have a little interactive board right here. It's about to pop up. And it says, are you currently implementing anchor charts with your students? And if so, how often? So if you don't mind, I'm just going to give you a minute to share your thoughts with us. So if you implement anchor charts with your students, are you co-creating them with the students? I'm not talking about one you've had up for 5 years, and I'm sure it's really great, but how many of you this year have actually taken time with your students to create an anchor chart every single unit? It seems like several people, I mean, good many people are utilizing anchor charts. And when we do walkthroughs in the classroom, that's actually something that we're looking for. We're actually looking for anchor charts. So on our walkthrough checklist, we have to put if we see anchor charts, if we don't see anchor charts. And we are supposed to see anchor charts that have been co-created with the students and that are applicable to every single lesson in the unit. So Unit 1 should not still be up when you're on Unit 4. And I hear someone say, I don't know what an anchor chart is. That's okay. That's why we're in this PD today. So there's lots of people in here who are utilizing them. Some people, though, like I said, don't know what they are. Well, nobody knows what anything is. Nobody knows what a CER is. Nobody knows what a PD is, a professional development, until you've done it for a while and you get used to these acronyms. So here's the next slide. What is an anchor chart? An anchor chart is kind of similar to what you see right here, but this is one based on a CER. These are great to have up in your classroom because not only are you showing an anchor chart, you're showing that you did a CER with your students, and the students can actually look back and refer to this when they're doing other CERs on their own. They have an example to follow. So CERs capture the key points of a topic that the students need to know, and they help the students to have a full understanding of the topics. If you think about it, even when you were back in school, when you go into a classroom, there's always the same posters over and over again. They had one when I was in school. It was said, hang in there. The best is yet to come. And it had the cat hanging on like a little clothesline. And that had nothing actually to do with education. But imagine if we had our own stuff up there. The teachers have other students' work, your work up there. You're going to be more likely to look at it. And you're looking and you're exposed to those concepts day in and day out. I can still remember that poster from elementary school. So if you got these posters up for your anchor charts, and especially when your students make them, they're more likely to look at them. They're going to be seeing these concepts every day, and they're more likely to stick with them throughout the entire year. So here, what is the anchor chart? It's a teaching tool that helps visually capture important information from the lesson. They are created during instruction to help emphasize and reiterate important information, procedures, processes, or skills being taught. Anchor charts are posted to allow students to refer to the content, strategies, cues, processes, and guidelines when engaging in collaborative and or independent work in order to build upon and expand these tools to further their learning and understandings. You do not have to create an anchor chart, the whole entire anchor chart, within one class period. One of the examples we have up here is on plates, convergent, divergent, and transform. It's in a couple of slides, you're going to see it. If you only get to convergent and divergent plates, That's the only two that's going to go on the anchor chart that day. You might do convergent charts on the convergent plates on the following day. So they don't have to be created in one class. You can create these over several class periods, but every single class should have their own anchor chart. So if you have 6 classes, even if they're all 6th grade science, then you should have 6 different anchor charts. Every anchor chart should be unique to that class. Students gain ownership when they see their work up there, but they also like seeing the other classes' work as well. And when you look at it day in and day out, you're more likely to become more familiar and the concepts are more likely to stick. They should be co-created with students and contain only the most relevant content, strategies, cues, processes, or guidelines. So you want to get the meat of the lesson. We all know that our concepts are broken into DCIs, the disciplinary core ideas. So basically your anchor chart should focus on the disciplinary core ideas. It should be co-created with students in one class and should not be used in another class or reused another year. They are unique to that particular group of learners. So when your students come for second block come in, you can't say, oh, well, I created this with first block and this is the one we're going to use. Those students in second block need to create their own anchor chart with their own ideas, their own pictures, their own drawings. But why should we use them? Well, I kind of said earlier, it gets the students engaged and they have ownership because they see their work in the classroom. But they keep learning current and relevant. So you take unit 1 down and you go to unit 2. When you're done with unit 2, you take unit 2 down and go to unit 3. So only that relevant content is up. And they record content, strategies, cues, processes about the learning process. And students love doing it. They become engaged in the lessons. You can use these charts to teach vocabulary. And I know some of you in middle school have Amplify kits. And you get these little black and white vocabulary cards. But they're not colorful, they're not engaging, and students are not likely going to look at those nearly as much as if they've made their own vocabulary little 4-square anchor chart, or if you've done a really colorful, neat with anchor chart with the students, and you've got 6 of these from different classes up. They're more likely to keep looking and referring back to that than they are just a white sheet of paper with black letters printed on it. They explain concepts, illustrate examples, and make the learning process fun and visually engaging. So when students have an anchor chart, they have a visual up there that they created. And a lot of students are visual learners, but you created it with them and you guys discussed and you were engaging your students. So it's also an audible learning experience as well. Then they had to write stuff on the anchor chart. So they saw it, they heard it, and then they wrote it. So you covered basically all areas of learning. They serve as a great scaffold in the classroom, offering a visual reference that you and your students can look back at as you work through guided and independent practice. So you can consistently refer back to that anchor chart. Someone has a question about a concept. Ask them before you give them an answer. Refer back to this anchor chart we made, and then I'm going to get back to you in just a minute and to see if you can figure it out. They also offer English language learners a reference for vocabulary and key academic language. So kids who are struggling with the English language can see the word and they have a picture to go with it. You can also use charts to help students retain key information and make connections between prior knowledge and new information. Research shows this is key to helping students build a stronger understanding of new material. So your anchor chart from unit 1 should go down when you start unit 2, but that unit 2 anchor chart is going to build on information that they learned in unit 1. So here's the one I was talking about just a second ago, one with plate boundaries. So you have the name of the boundary, a picture of the boundary, what happens when the plates come together, the lithosphere is destroyed, what happens when it moves apart, and the geological process that occurred during that plate movement. So you create this with them. I personally do not have a lot of artistic ability. So I love when my students want to come up and draw this because they always did a much better job than me. But making these with your class makes this learning, makes this chart personal for them, which in turn increases their ownership. Now we're going to, on the first anchor chart I kind of showed you was a CER anchor chart. You can do a CER, a simple one, together with your class. You can put that up and they can refer back to it. But a lot of the students are struggling with claim, evidence, and reasoning. So on our interactive board, just to get some of your thoughts, on which part of the CER task do your students have the most proficiency? So what do you think they're best at? Are they best at stating the claim? Are they best at finding evidence? Are they best at coming up with the reasoning, saying why the evidence supports the claim, and what's most problematic? And most people say that claim is where their students are going to have the most proficiency. And I see, so I put evidence is the easiest, but most people are telling me the same thing. Reasoning is the most problematic. So I'm going to go over a really simple way how to get your students really good at doing the reasoning. It's kind of easy to state a claim, and you can usually go through an article, and a lot of students don't have a lot of problem just pulling out a couple of pieces of evidence to support or that disproves their claim. But this is a really good comment from Ms. Tiffany Moore, and then Ms. Joycelyn Miller said same. They confuse the evidence with the reasoning. They always want to put more evidence in the reasoning. And reasoning is not evidence. Reasoning is stating why your evidence supports your claim. And pretty much everybody is stating the same thing. Claim and evidence is easiest, and reasoning is most problematic. So I'm going to share one of my thoughts. And how I start my students off with the reasoning is I always put them, the evidence supports the claim because. And I would put this on an anchor chart in my room. And I actually put this on here. It makes it easier because they're saying the evidence supports the claim because. Okay, well, now I know what I'm doing for my reasoning. I'm saying why my evidence supports my claim. The evidence supports the claim because it shows, and then we're fixing to go into a couple of examples. But if you give your students this right here, from the beginning of the year, you start the evidence supports the claim because it gets them to understanding what the reasoning is, why it's there, and how they should format it. So according to claim, evidence, reasoning, you have to have a claim that answers your question, evidence from student data, and then reasoning that involves a rule or a scientific principle that describes why the evidence supports the claim. It tells you right here why, so just give it to them. In the sentence, the evidence supports the claim because. For example, students might suggest air is matter. And we know air is matter because we found that the weight of the ball increased each time we pump more air into it. And this shows that air has weight, one of the characteristics of matter. So they easily could have put the evidence supports the claim because it shows that air has weight, which is a characteristic of matter, which makes it a lot simpler for them to understand. So claim is the assertion the article might be trying to make. I like to have students do this, and they're supposed to anyway, but state the claim before reading the article. And I have an example CER in here. And the biggest thing is students are like, well, what if I'm wrong? It doesn't matter if their claim is correct or incorrect. They're being graded on the process of the CER, not on the validity of their claim. To remind students, they are not graded on whether or not their claim is accurate, but on the process taken to determine the validity of the claim. Because scientists perform experiments all the time. They ask a question, they'll make an observation, ask that question, form a hypothesis, then test it. The test may or may not support the hypothesis. That's not what the process is about. The process is finding out whether or not their claim was correct, about the process they went to determine that, not about whether their hypothesis was right or wrong. Evidence is just facts from the article that support the claim. One thing students don't do, they forget to do. And it's really important to get all their points on LEAP, and when it comes down to it, ACT as well. If graphs are included in the article or charts, always include their information. And the example I have does have graphs, and graphs should always be included in the evidence. And the reasoning, the evidence supports the claim because how does your evidence support your claim? It is not you restating the evidence, you're explaining how your evidence supports your claim. So I have a couple of examples here. A lot of you may know about these, a lot of you may not. They're really fun little YouTube videos that help teach how to do a CER. By the time kids get in, middle school, especially 8th grade, and then especially high school, we expect our students to be able to do CERs. A lot of them are still struggling, and that's okay, because a lot of students have not had science, high-level science, tier 1 science taught with fidelity. So we're having to go back and kind of start from the beginning. That's okay, because we have the Audi commercial and the Doritos commercial to teach CER, and they're both really, really great. They're fun. The kids enjoy it. But better yet, they get across the point of how to do a CER. So if you haven't taught yet, if your students are struggling and you haven't used one of these, use them in your class. Make an anchor chart with one of these, with both of these, with your students. So that way you're teaching CER and you're getting the anchor chart, which is required to have up by the district. So you're satisfying that right there, the anchor chart requirement, all in one step. This is a CER progression, and you can kind of see they have a kindergarten, a 5th, a 9th, and then a 12th of where they should be at. So now that the state's mandating that science must be taught in K through 5, as the years progress, we're hoping to see more and more science proficiency by the time kids do get to middle school and high school, because they start CERs in kindergarten. So how does the CER model support equitable science classrooms? Because the CER model provides a scaffold for thinking and about science and explaining phenomena. It teaches kids how to think about science. And they do this all the time. They just don't know they do it. Their cell phone will start acting up. And they have to go through and figure out why it's acting up. So they make a claim about what's going on. My battery life is getting really low, so my phone won't hold a charge. So they have to go and do some research. They go in there, they find the battery life on their phone is only 45%. That's their evidence. The reasoning is, the reason my phone, the evidence supports a claim because it shows my phone won't hold a charge because the battery life is low. They do this all the time. We just have to get them to understand that what they do in everyday life, it's the same exact thing that they're doing in science class. It provides students with structure to help them develop conclusions. And it's a visual representation. So they're not only writing it out, you can also put that on a chart. So it's on their notebook or on their Google Classroom and their documents, and it's on the charts for them to keep referring back to. The more they see it, the more they do it, the more proficient they'll become. So this is the one that I provided as an example. And you can click on the link right here and it'll pull up, and it's a really, really good one. And it says, does new technology give swimmers a superhuman edge in competition? So I had to do a SLT, a student learning target, on a CER. And this is the one that I would use every single year. And I would have the students look at the provided pictures. And they have a couple of pictures of the suit. And I would ask them to make a claim. Do you think the fast skin, this actual suit, can make swimmers faster? And here's a picture of it right here. This is a picture of Michael Phelps in it, actually. So I would have them make the claim before they read the article. Then I would have them go through with a yellow, the highlight, and highlight the evidence that either supported or disputed their claim.
Miss
Some
Cifrio,
students would pick, yeah, it makes the swimmers faster. Some students would pick, no, it doesn't.
Miss
and-
Cifrio,
They would go through, highlight everything
Can she hear
that
me?
supports or disputes their claim. And then at the end, they would have the reasoning. The evidence supports the claim because it shows the fast skin actually
Alright, 'cause
does
she can't
make
hear
the
me. Can
swimmer
you see
faster.
it?
But one thing I would always
can't
make sure that my students did was they have charts and they have graphs, and those have to be included in the evidence. So can everybody see the Nearpod, the actual CER on here? You click the link and it opens up. You'll be able to follow kind of along with what's going on with it. But the charts and the graphs, sitting there and stating the evidence that they show is pertinent to getting your full points on a CER, whether it's on LEAP or on ACT. And you can see right here why it's so important. In 1975, you can see the record was a little below 24 seconds. And by 2010, it had fell like 3 seconds, a little below 21, and it's kind of stayed flat. People haven't just become so superior at leisure and genetically over these few years. They've had technological developments like this suit. And this was in the men's 50 meter, and the men's 100 meter had a
Yes.
very, very significant decrease as well, from 50 to 47. That's the one thing my students would forget to do, is to provide the evidence stated in the actual chart. And it even gives them a little boxes at the bottom that'll tell you the claim, the evidence, and then the reasoning. So if you haven't done a full one yet on something scientific, please feel free to use this one, borrow this one, because doing a CER, it doesn't necessarily have to be related directly to your content or what you're teaching at the time. You can do a CER anytime. And the last thing we're going to go over is the discussion question boards, the DQBs. These became introduced when Inquiry Hub became introduced. This is also something co-created with students. And then the same thing, that a rule that applies with anchor charts applies with DQBs. What you use in one class, you do not use in another class. They're unique to a particular group of learners. Now, this lady has them on a whiteboard, but we have those nice, really huge sticky notes that you can use, those massive poster size ones. And you can see she's using the little bitty sticky notes. And what are the students writing on them? Well, students can write what they want to know about the question. Well, which question to use? We have so many. We have essential questions in our lesson plans. We have the question, the unit question. We have chapter questions. We have the anchor phenom. And then you can see they have a little chart that says questions we have answered. So it's really fun to have competitions with the classes. And you'll have like a bucket, kind of like a clear container, like is shown in the picture. And every time a student answers a question that is on the DQB board, they raise their hand and they can say the class has answered the question. Whoever realized it, they can take it off and put it in the DQB board. And the classes can compete with each other to see which ones answered the most questions. You can also do a know and a want to know. So you divide the paper in half and they put what they know on one side and what they want to know on the other. And it's funny to see how many of the kids have the exact same knows, because for the most part, the kids have been in the same cohort with each other. So a lot of them know the same thing. And that's important for us as teachers, because we can see the misconceptions that they have. Third grade had one with the train. It's magnetic and it floats on the tracks. So a lot of the kids thought they knew why the train flowed on the track, but they didn't. So we can kind of see their misconceptions and take those and guide them in the correct direction to actually understand why the train floated on the tracks. So do you implement DQBs in your classroom? This is just like a little quiz. So just click on it. If you implement in the beginning of the unit or the lesson, in the middle, at the end, or all the above. So if you haven't implemented DQB, if you're not really familiar with it, you can just leave it blank. But if you've actually done the DQBs and you're using them, we're just trying to find out how proficient teachers are and if they're actually using them. Because the students get really engaged, they really like to buy in, and it's really fun for them to be able to see that they have answered and have learned the questions that they have asked. It's not the question you told them that they had to answer. It was their own questions they came up with. And then they're finding the answers for themselves. So has everybody kind of had a chance to answer the little question here? Okay. So to kind of give a little just quick wrap up of what I was saying, they're in a powerful instructional strategy that engages students in processing investigations and other data to work through multiple iterations to build an explanation of a puzzling phenomena. So your unit, your anchor phenomena is not something that can be answered in 1 or 2 lessons. It's something that's answered over the entire unit. So you might have 3, 4, 5 chapters that the students have to go through and find little information that answers little chapter questions, little lesson questions, before they find the answer to explain the anchor phenomena. And the DQBs kind of help them process the information sequentially so that they can build up to answering their anchor phenomena and being able to explain it. And there's a few reasons that they're really great to use because they help students make connections between activity and the anchor phenomena. So every lesson question helps answer the chapter question, and every chapter question helps answer the anchor phenomena. So it helps organize learning into a roadmap for students. It scaffolds the student practice of asking questions. We want students to ask questions. We want them to be engaged. We want them to be curious. And it develops student ownership of the content and builds a class community. It's kind of like a class community KWL chart. Students used to have to write the KWL charts in their notebooks, but only they saw what they knew, only they saw what they wanted to know and what they had learned. It was just completely an isolated solo endeavor. But now with the DQB, everybody in the class can see what everybody knows. So one student might know something that somebody else didn't know, and they got to share that knowledge. And then you'll notice when you first do them, a bunch of kids will have the same want to know, the same questions. They can all kind of see they're on the same page. They all want to know the same thing, and they're all working to find the answers to those questions together. It's much more collaborative than doing it by yourself. So this just kind of gives you a breakdown for the anchor phenomena, which is what we want to answer when we're done with the unit. And the driving questions seek to explain the phenomena through answering a bunch of much smaller questions. And the students generate those questions themselves. So like I had said before, when we give students a question to answer, they're having to do what we want them to do. But when they make their own questions, they're doing what they want to do. They're answering the questions that they came up with. And it can be used, basically, the most common part is in the beginning and in the middle of the lesson. It's used the beginning of the unit to capture what students know and want to know about the anchor phenomena, and it helps them figure out the phenomena. But then we revisit it all throughout the lesson, and we can do a DQB for chapter questions as well. We can do one for a lesson question. We can do one for any of the questions. If you have the lesson plans, there's an essential question every single day. You can do one as much as you want, as long as the students understand that the goal of the DQB is for them to find little pieces of information to help them answer the anchor phenomena. And it's not meant to set the agenda for the whole unit, because there's going to be a lot of questions that can't be put on the DQB. But it helps them build up and gain knowledge so they can explain the anchor phenomenon. And this is kind of what I said earlier. How does it support equitability? Because it shifts the focusing from individual experiences. This is only what I know. I'm not sharing it with anybody. This is what I want to know, but I'm just writing this for myself. This is what I want to know, but nobody else is going to know what I want to know. So students are isolated and doing everything by themselves to a collective experiences where they're sharing ideas. Every student contributes questions, and all those questions are helpful. Now, of course, you're going to have some of the students have the same questions, and you only need to leave one up on the board, but every student contributes. And it's a visual representation. If the kids have a bucket and they can visually see what they have learned, they can visually see their knowledge mounting up when the sticky notes starts making a pile in the little clear container. So this is one particularly just from 8th grade. This is from the Amplify Unit 2, and the anchor phenomena was wire fossils of a Mesosaurus separated by thousands of kilometers of ocean when the species once lived all together. So they all lived together, but now they're finding these fossils thousands of kilometers apart, separated by ocean. So when the students walk into your classroom the first day of that unit, you can give them 2 different colored sticky notes and ask them, what do they want to know about the anchor phenomena? And what do they know about the anchor phenomena? So they each write it and they come put it up there. And it's neat to see what the kids think. Some of the stuff they think is going to be really completely misconceptions. It's going to be wrong. But instead of us just saying you're wrong, we're just going to say that's interesting. And then we're going to let them find out as the lesson progresses, oh, I thought that, and that's completely wrong. And I thought this, and that's about right. So they kind of get to learn, and they're discovering on their own. It reemphasizes our role as a facilitator and not a front loader of information. And this is our webpage, I think, where everybody knows about the webpage. And at this time, I'll see anybody. Does anybody have any questions at all? Sure.
Hello, I have a quick question. When you mention, is the anchor chart and the anchor phenomenon the same thing?
But DQBs are fun and engages the students. So basically our time is up, and we're just going to put these little QR codes up at the end here so that you can get marked for attendance. And I don't see them on this slide, but that's no big deal. We have them on another one. And so I'm going to put them on this one.
Ms. Cifrio, this is Sabine. That was a good question. Is the anchor phenomenon and anchor chart the same thing?
And we're just going to share them on this one. Is that what it was?
I don't think she can hear you guys.
Yeah, our
I don't,
internet is
yeah, I don't
not
think she
great.
can. Type it in the chat, somebody.
Not the same thing. The anchor phenomenon is the overall thing that drives the instructions for the unit.
Okay, we're going to share it,
Charts
and
would
you can
be,
get a credit for your
would be
attendance.
used like per lesson.
So is it another way of saying the unit question and the essential question per section?
Yeah, you could use an anchor chart to kind of help answer those, yeah.
Because see, all they did was just change the verbiage on this stuff, but it's the same stuff. They just using different words.
Yeah. I mean, but like,
Because
so
Miss Dr. Kelly,
for,
Okay, they're not on there. Yes, we got to put the different, we're going
Dr.
to share
Kelly,
the other
old
screen.
school
Can you share the other
hypothesis
screen?
was a claim, right?
not a doctor.
Let me see.
Really?
Pretty much, yeah.
Let's see.
And then the evidence would be the data that you picked up from the experiment, right?
Can we get the link in the
Pretty much,
chat?
yeah.
Yeah, I think somebody put the link, didn't they?
Okay.
What's the claim?
I'm gonna hit you up.
Evidence was data.
This is stuck.
The teams can't hear you. I don't know device settings. Okay, we got it. Yeah. Can everybody see it now? I can see it now.
Like erase subject stuff, for example.
Okay.
Good catch.
And the link's about to be in the chat.
The and the time code to the present or the codifying benefits the Caucasian race. The end result of what I gained from codifying is one.
Okay, hold on.
Yeah, that's in. Just put it, you want to stick it up there and we'll put it in, go over that.
Okay, hold on.
If you take the end result and put in conclusion, you gotta change that whole thing.
Just give us a couple more seconds. Please take a
that.
minute, fill out the
Okay.
attendance and
I felt like
accountability tracker.
I think that's what she
Please
had
take a
answered.
second
She
and fill
had
out the
something
reflection
in
tracker.
addition, and I was like, that's so generic.
Unfortunately, when we do
Girl, look,
virtual
I was just
meetings,
trying to
there's
get
technical
that junk
difficulties, but
ability.
also always a possibility of,
Why
you
you
know,
didn't
it's
have to
always a
do
possibility,
You did
but
a
it
lot of
hasn't been too
changes.
terrible.
Contributing
I just wrote that.
in this global world. Your last sentence ended such as a no period. Yeah, I did it.
EBR.
We're gonna take a minute, share a little bit of information about the middle school
No, keep
science
on
fair that we're gonna be
using
having.
it.
This is what this year, see our climate.
November 18th, December. We have the elementary science fair and we have the middle school STEM day at Baton Rouge Magnet. So fixing to get that put up as well.
Reflect.
They not putting it in y'all links? It's easier, quicker, because it's free.
Let me see yours when you finish. Catrice, you're not muted.
Okay, let's see. Google.
And it's loading. It's just taking a minute, guys. We apologize.
Mm.
And someone asked, oh yeah, the DQB is the driving question board.
LI. /
Heather, can I speak something? Can I say something?
REBR.
This is
And
this
don't
is
forget the
like Gal.
Bitly is case sensitive as well.
Heather, this is like Gal from Baroshai.
And you
Can
can
I?
also use your phone to do the QR codes that are showing.
See.
Somebody.
OCT.
Can everybody see the QR codes?
D, PD, P, D, okay. bit.ly/EBRO. C, EBROC.
So I can see the QR codes. Why can't I hear the participants? Why can't I hear people? Let's see. Okay, I think I can hear y'all now. Okay, I can hear you now. Awesome. There's two of us in the room, so I had my volume turned down earlier. So hopefully everybody's had a minute and they can been able to fill out the attendance and accountability tracker and the reflection tracker. But we are having middle school STEM Day at Baton Rouge High School on November 19th. Is that correct? November 18th, November 18th. And I'm
Yeah,
also
can I-
gonna put it in the chat.
Yes, please. Can I say something, Heather?
Sure.
Yeah, sorry. My chat will be turned off for any reason, I don't know. But hi all, everyone. So it's just a little bit of commercial for our STEM Day. We would like to invite middle school teacher to bring your student to our school to participate in our annual STEM Day. I sent out information about 3 weeks ago, but in any case you did not get information, can you just shoot me an email and I will send it to you. I would love to see your student in our STEM Day. It would be fun and a friendly competition. So please join us to promote STEM learning across the district. All right, I will see you there. Thank you.
And I put the information to, this is middle school science STEM Day at Baton Rouge High School at Baton Rouge. I think I wrote Baton Rouge High School twice, on November 18th.
Thank you, Heather.
And this is gonna be for elementary and middle as well.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
And do teachers, the students need to sign up, the teachers need to sign their students up?
They just send me the registration. They will bring students to our school so that we will know. Yeah. We have a registration form for the teacher filled in too. Miss Kelly, you should get our information, huh, Miss Kelly?
So if you have middle school students, guys, the most, I don't think anybody in here is elementary, but if you do, 6 through 8, get your
No,
kids
not too
to
late.
Baton
More?
Rouge High, November 18th.
So I am planning to bring students. I'm sorry that I'm not sure we've registered, but yes, I'm planning to bring students from Glasgow.
Yes, ma'am.
We're looking forward to it.
We love to see everybody. We love to see your student too.
Thank you.
Is it on our science website? And we're gonna be putting the information up on our district science website. So it'll be up soon. But I appreciate everybody joining us today. Thank you so much. Sorry for the technical difficulties. It's a problem with virtual PDs. You guys have a great afternoon. And I hope it was something useful you learned about anchor shorts or CEO or DQB.
Oh, man.
And Miss,
Wait, let me see if I can get on this right here. Maybe I can do it on here. Let me get out. Is that it?
stop, I think. Stop. I see it.